From the Middle is proudly a founding member of the Odd Pods Media Network.
Oh, for the love.
Sorry, just clearing my Mountain Dew hole.
I got my phone hole cleaned today.
That's where you keep it?
You're so cerebral and you're so developed and evolved. From the Middle after dark over here.
Hello, everybody. That was pretty loud. Might have hurt your ears. For that, I apologize. This is episode 104 From the Middle. We are three middle-class guys in the middle chapters of our lives, in the middle of America. Point of view is somewhere in the middle. Something I found out today, Kory and Dillon Hubble not only share a last name, but they also share a mother. So I tried to insult Dillon and found out that I insulted both of them at the same time.
Yeah, at some point we realized your mom jokes didn't work between us.
Yeah, it didn't work out. So not only that, I think they're twins, right? Anyway,
Identical, yes.
that's Dillon. That's Kory.
You can tell from the graphic on our podcast.
I'm the one
identical
sans
twins.
hair on the top of my head.
My name is Gerard P. Whitaker, and we are glad to be here back for another episode of From the Middle. Not to
In
be confused
studio.
with that Malcolm guy in studio. Week number 2
Woohoo!
in a row in the studio. None of us are sick. Ha ha! Take that, vid. So anyway.
And there aren't locusts swarming on us right now, which is a plus.
There are not. I've seen some pictures. I've heard some people talk about.
I've seen some posts. Yeah, Northwest Ohio's getting hit in some areas, but I even went out. So last episode with Greg, you talked about like around midnight, go out and look around the base of trees, try to find the nymphs. Didn't see any, but I'm looking.
Yeah.
I don't know that I'm going to cook them up, but I have been looking.
We'll save them for me because I'm getting hungry.
Alrighty.
Not allowed to eat right now. It's like ordering a pizza from ZA. You order it and then you're not allowed to eat for 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently that's the way it works. So I've decided that I'm going to cook and eat nymphs. And ever since then I've been fasting. So that when I find some, I'll be like, those actually look good. I actually want to put those in my mouth.
Speaking of bugs,
Yeah.
I've got to share. I saw a video today.
Don't share a bug with us now, man.
I saw a video today,
Okay.
and there was a bee's nest. Well, there was a hive of bees that lacked a nest. They were nestless.
Okay.
And they were also queenless. They had no queen and no nest.
Homeless bees without leadership.
And the person who claims to be the expert that's talking in the video says, if you see a giant, like, throng of bees somewhere not in a nest, that means they don't have one. They don't normally congregate in like a big ball.
Right.
And they're like on the underside of this. It's just like lawn furniture with an umbrella or something, all swarmed and balled up underneath. Anyways, so this person, no suit, no helmet, no gloves, starts scooping bees into some kind of one of those little boxes that they put bees in. That whatever they're called.
A bee box.
A bee box. Yeah. Super cool. Yeah. That was probably the background music on the video. So she's scooping by hand these bees into a bee box to like transplant them.
That sounds dumb.
But she realized it does, but it doesn't even end bad. As she's scooping the bees, she realizes there's no queen. And and in the video, she goes, I happen to have a queen bee in my pocket.
Of course she does.
And I thought, that phrase has never been uttered before in all of humanity. And she pulls a queen bee out of her jean pocket in a box.
Yeah.
Like a tiny little box. And then proceeds to have captions that say, if the bees don't accept the new queen as the queen of this new hive, they will kill her. Yeah. And so she puts the queen bee's life at risk and sets it in the thing and keeps scooping bees. And they accept the queen bee. And I just thought that was one of the most incredible things I've ever seen happen. And she scooped bees by hand.
Yeah, that's what the hell kind of EDC does she have?
I don't know anybody who's ever just had happened to have a queen bee in their pocket to do that, but it was incredible. And then she took the bee box out to like a field onto like a little pedestal for the bee box. So she's clearly got to do this, but still, like, she claimed to have stumbled across this hive of bees that didn't have a hive or a queen or whatever. It was incredible.
I hope that I think that she one day hopes to be the queen bee herself. That she stumbles across a hive and she's like, I want to be your queen now.
And then I just think, I don't even have a pen on me when I need one. And she can restart a bee colony. I was blown away.
Slow day.
Good.
It wasn't. It was one of those, you ever just like, you know that you've got stuff to do, but you just see a video that just grabs your attention and you're like, I didn't have time for that, but here I am.
I'll make time.
I'll make time because I saw a human scooping bees with their hand. Yeah. It was incredible.
So
that was my day.
I've been down some of those YouTube holes before of beekeeping and insects. Recently, we've had an ant problem in our yard, and I'm running across YouTube videos about ants. There's a guy who I think that maybe the channel or maybe it was just the name of the video was called Ant Wars or whatever. His method of getting rid of ants, he has in his yard. He had like 2 giant ant hills. Like one was in the middle of his yard, one was in his garden. And he's like, check this out, guys. He grabs a shovel, takes a big old chunk out of the ant hill that was in the yard, puts it on top of the one that was in the garden. The 2 armies of ants start battling. Like he's showing it. You can see them like they're pairing up and they're fighting each other, killing each other. And apparently instinctively they do this. And instinctively they go and hunt and look for the opposing queen to kill her. And in the best case scenario, both queens die. Both armies of ants are gone, are done.
Dispersed.
Yeah.
Follow-up question.
Yeah.
It's not funny yet. I haven't asked it.
I'll pretend to be an expert. You know all I know, but
follow-up question.
Yes.
At what point, what's the tipping point? Let me rephrase. What's the tipping point from when you say, I have ants in my yard, till you say, I have an ant problem in my yard?
Yeah.
What's the difference between those? Ants live outside.
Right.
So at what point is it no longer just, I have ants in my yard?
Well, we're talking like a 3-foot radius where there's like no grass in our front yard.
What do you think would be the tipping point for an exterminator, you having no experience in the industry?
What do you mean?
What do you think would be the tipping point where an exterminator would come out and go, those are just ants, they live here?
That's
versus, seems like you got an ant problem.
That's a good question. I mean, we have ants in our house,
and
we've been told that until you take care of those big ones that are in the yard, they're gonna keep coming in the numbers that they're coming. That's what I've been told anyway. But then also, like, you have a big bear patch in your yard. We don't want that.
So probably a noticeable mound is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, not just a noticeable mound, but a very large one.
Okay. I genuinely don't know. People spray for bugs all the time outside. Yeah. And that sounds really obvious until somebody just says, but they live out there. Like, that's their home. That's normal.
I need a bug per square foot chart so I know when it's an issue and when I just have outside of my house.
Yeah, you can say like, oh, we saw a bug in the house, we need to spray. And it's like, you can't stop all of them.
Right, yeah.
They quite handily outnumber us. So at some point, they're going to come in. The question is, when is it a tipping point? And in the warm weather, it feels like, you're going to see a couple bugs a week in a house, right? Like, isn't that normal?
That is normal, yeah.
Okay. We need to have a guest exterminator on.
Maybe.
For all my follow-up
We
questions.
know one.
We
he lived in a camper for a while.
Indeed, they did.
We just asked him all the wrong questions.
All the wrong questions. Mm-hmm. We need to have him back for a follow-up.
We were talking about camping.
We had him.
We got Crow. What's that?
Yeah.
What's that from?
It's Brian Regan's stand-up. Yeah, talking about the kidnapping attempt on Russell Crowe. And the best part about that whole bit that Brian Regan does is that he sets it up to where it's a husband and wife at a kitchen dinner table. And it's something to the effect of the husband saying, I don't know how we're going to pay all these bills. Oh, yes, I do. And then it's like, how do you get to the point where the plan is to kidnap Russell Crowe? And I think the setup to that joke was beautiful.
He goes to a red carpet event and he goes, Mr. Crowe, can I get your autograph? I have a pen. It's in my van. We got Crowe.
So good. I wish I remembered what special that was from.
Man.
But if you've never seen it, just watch all of Brian Regan.
Do it.
And it'll pay off for you.
You
in the long
won't
run.
be sad that you did. Man, I love how we tackle the hard hitting issues. Speaking of home projects, so if you're a loyal listener of this podcast, you've heard me talk about the fact that last summer we got a pool and we installed it ourselves. I know many of you just groaned and rolled your eyes. Relax. One last pool story. So I had to close it for the winter. It did really well all winter. It maintained most of its water. And then I opened it this spring. There's a series of chemicals that you have to put in to get it opened up. And then I filled the water level back to where it's supposed to be. And it's got the new chemicals in it. Things are looking good. And then I'll say all of a sudden, but I know that can't be right, but I start losing water. And I've got sand around the perimeter of the pool for about 2 feet that extends past the sides, the walls. And the sand is wet in one area, no matter what's going on outside. So now I'm getting concerned. Then I start tracking how much water I'm losing. And I put some blue painter's tape at the water level. And I'm losing 1 3/4 inches of water a day in a 24-hour period. I'm like, this is not good. And then I'm starting to wonder, how did it hold its water all winter? But now I'm losing 1 3/4 inches a day. I've only cleaned it a couple times. So Dillon's going to share a photo. So I've got this pool vacuum. And if you're on YouTube, you can see this. There's plastic wheels that are supposed to snap in place on the broom head of this vacuum, and the plastic axles snap into those little things. Well, last year, those one wheel kept popping out. So right before I left my last company, next photo, please, I cut up my American Express card from that job and into plastic strips over top of those axles that kept popping out.
Yeah.
Which exposed some pretty sharp corners. So when I was vacuuming it this year, every time I did this, I think I was poking little holes in the liner. And Sherry goes, maybe it has something to do with the fact that you jerry-rigged the pool broom head with plastic credit cards and it's poking. And I'm like, that's not. It might very well be that. So now next photo, I found some strips of foam and taped those over the Amex cards. And where the one wheel was missing, you can see I've used a Lego wheel in the front. So now I think we're good. So sure enough, once the water was warm enough for me to snorkel to the bottom, I found no less than 12 credit card poke holes in the bottom. And the good news is I've got them all patched. They make an underwater goop that you can cut some nylon patches and you can do this underwater.
Nice.
And I've talked about this before. I kind of feel like a Navy SEAL. Like I put this chemical compound mixture on the nylon and then I was like
put on your flippers and your snorkel and your goggles, waddle up to the pool.
Yeah. But then I was too buoyant and you need to apply pressure and I'm too buoyant. So I keep like floating to the surface as I'm trying to put pressure on it and hold them down. But anyway, I think we got the water stopped. We're going to enjoy a whole season of the pool. Sans leaks.
Hey honey, I think I need you to come stand on me.
Yeah. And if you're looking at the photos on YouTube, you'll realize that there's going to be a link in the bio of this episode for a GoFundMe for a new sweeper for Kory's pool. So if you want to contribute,
that's the second round of jerry rigging. Is that the term, jerry rigging?
Yeah.
I just can't believe I was like poking a hole. Ugh.
Yeah, it could also be jury or jury, like Joury. All three are basically now accurate
Okay.
because jury is like a naval term, and then jury works, and then Jerry goes back to World War II.
Real-time fact checks.
Yeah.
Brought to you by Dillon.
Only because I happen to have looked it up before. So I think all three are accurate at this point and
Awesome.
can be used.
So that's a fun little, it's one of those, like, we've talked about revoking your man card when you admit that you don't know how to handle something, whether that be an ant infestation or a beehive without a queen. I'm like, I've got a leaky pool that's leaking a significant amount of water. And the pressure that I felt from that, I was like, oh no, I'm going to have a company come out. They make like a dye that you can inject where you suspect there might be a hole.
Right.
And if the dye sucks out, for sure you have a hole there. So I'm like, that can cost thousands of dollars, or I'll do this myself.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think we're holding water, which is exciting.
Look, moral of the story is you had an ingenious solution. Sure, you made things way worse. But you had an ingenious solution to a problem. You tried to fix it. You could have cost yourself like 50 times more than the solution cost you, but you tried it and you failed, but you tried it.
That's the important thing.
And that's the important thing.
It's that you gave it a shot.
And you learned from the failure.
Yes.
That's what we're trying to say.
And
here.
that too. And that you learned from
You'll
it. Sure.
probably never do that again.
I will never do that again, as a matter of fact. Yeah.
And
Anyway.
I can learn from your failure and never do that if I have a pool.
Yep.
Yeah, there
Cut
you
up
go.
my corporate credit card and glue/tape it to the bottom of a pool. It sounds too long to be real, but everyone just heard it. So I'll just leave it there.
I super glued it.
For anyone who's curious as to what's up with me that knows I don't go outside, I've been watching stuff.
What?
Which has been great. I know, super crazy that I've been watching things. We just had the Friends reunion.
Nice.
Come back on HBO Max. I've been watching through Star Wars: The Bad Batch. We just finished Mighty Ducks Game Changers.
Wait, you're going too fast. We got to pick a few.
Well, we
of
can
these
stop
apart.
at any of them. I was just highlighting a couple things, but those have all been like nice things that we finished up lately. If people are looking for new things,
I saw the Mighty Ducks show on the Netflix, and it's the Gilmore Girl mom.
yeah, Lauren Graham.
Lauren Graham
I think is her
in
name.
that show, right?
Mhm.
Was that good? We grew up on Mighty Ducks,
Yeah, so I think you asked me about it, and you were,
but now we're on the podcast.
yeah, you. All right, you were cautious about proceeding with watching the show. I don't think you probably wanted Mighty Ducks ruined, and I was legitimately surprised that it was enjoyable. It feels as cheesy now as probably the movies were even when we were kids, but it doesn't matter. And and my wife and I both genuinely enjoyed watching through. I think it's 10 episodes.
Cool.
Genuinely enjoyed watching through it. Gordon Bombay is back. That's Emilio Estevez's character. And then you've got a couple of the players are back. At one point, I won't spoil anything, but it's nothing major, so I don't feel bad saying that. But it was good, yeah. And Lauren Graham and Emilio Estevez, and then Lauren Graham's son are basically the main characters in this one.
So much like we asked Michael Watson when he was talking about Cobra Kai, do people need to watch the Mighty Ducks and D2 the Mighty Ducks in order to fully appreciate, what's this one called?
Mighty Ducks Game Changers.
Mighty Ducks Game Changers.
I'm going to actually say, yeah, you don't need to, but you do, if that makes sense. Like, you're not going to appreciate Gordon Bombay's character if like you don't know where he's been.
Yeah.
And what he's been through. He's kind of an important character to not appreciate where he's been. All the new people are fine. Like, that's the one character that you'd really want to know. And for anyone that might have watched it actually as kids and wouldn't just be kids watching it right before Game Changers, the old films, you appreciate a lot more when a couple of the old characters show back up because it's been, 30 years real time since we've seen them, in anything. So, if your kids are so young that you don't think they would care, go for it. But if you're watching it as a middle something, because you watch them, like Mighty Ducks 1 and 2, go back and watch them. Like, it's 2 movies. Go back and watch. I think there's 3, but nobody has to watch 3.
Mm-hmm.
Go back and watch Mighty Ducks 1 and 2, and then watch a couple episodes of Game Changers.
There you go.
I think it was nice.
And I've been watching Bad Batch. I'm not caught up, so don't spoil it for me. That's been enjoyable.
Yeah, I think we were texting about it a little bit. And the most interesting thing, we'll probably do a tangent episode on Bad Batch, so I'm not going to deep dive it. Plus, not everyone wants to hear about Star Wars every 3rd episode.
Oh, there's enough that do.
But I think the most interesting thing about Bad Batch so far, and you can tell me if you have something different, is that it takes place after the events of episode 3. It wasn't like a flashback to them doing missions and stuff during the Clone Wars era that we've already seen. So we're actually filling in the gap that really only Rogue One and Solo exist in at this point, with some characters we might have seen before. And so it's been really cool. Like, I'm excited, you're seeing the beginning of the Empire in animated form, but that also means they can do a lot more than than the risk that they would take on a live action movie at this point. They can introduce new characters and alien species and missions to planets that they've never shown because it's animated and it's a lot easier.
Yeah.
I was telling the kids I had an audible reaction at one point because we watch as a family on Friday nights for family night. And they come out on Friday, so it's convenient. And they started to cover something that Star Wars fans have always wondered about, but have never really had the context for outside of, like, of course, you can go to Wikipedia or like deep dive like Star Wars fan sites. But what happens when they go from clones as clone troopers to not hired, but
essentially mercenaries,
recruited soldiers that are different people, not clones of Jango Fett, as the stormtroopers for the original trilogy? Because the joke is that because the stormtroopers shoot so badly, it's because they're regular people now instead of these really highly efficient warrior clones of Jango Fett. Mm-hmm. That's something that always has been speculated. Like, when was that transition? Like, in the first couple episodes, they start talking about exactly how and why that went down. And you're like, oh, this is cool. Like, they're really adding a lot of richness to little things. And like you said, there's people, characters that we've met in a single or 2 Clone Wars episodes that we're meeting again now. The Bad Batch is bumping into some of these people. So it's doing a really good job, like you said, of adding depth to these stories that you're already familiar with and explaining a time period, as you also said, that we're not used to seeing. It's cool.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. And then I don't exclusively watch Marvel and Star Wars. I was curious if you guys have watched The Dig on Netflix at all.
Nope.
So I'm really bad at summarizing movies quickly when you could just read the description off of Netflix. That's way more efficient. But essentially, it's the discovery of the Sutton Hoo artifacts, which are Viking era artifacts in England right before World War II. So it's based on a true story. And it's been highly recommended. It might have been nominated for some awards. I don't know which one. But it was good. Rafe Fiennes is the main kind of this. He's not an archaeologist because he's not officially trained, but he's an excavator. It's pronounced Rafe, I believe.
Rafe? Oh.
Rafe Fiennes. Rafe Fiennes is an excavator who's been hired by somebody on their private land to dig. And there's sort of this race to, if World War II starts, it's going to be probably too late to dedicate resources to keep doing this. Okay. And so it's a bit of a race against the clock, but it's the Sutton Hoo excavation. So we already kind of know what happened. We found a lot of artifacts. Anyways, it was incredibly good. And it had me thinking, I'm watching probably less Netflix over time because Disney Plus has so much more content on it that I think makes sense for our family. But I genuinely had to look up a list of like, what are some of the other even like popular movies on Netflix? Because The Dig was one of the last big, like, kind of highly touted movies, and I don't know that many people that watched it. It's based on history. So you guys hadn't watched it. Do you remember the last like big Netflix original movie you've watched? I mean, you would have watched Cobra Kai, which is a series.
Yeah, no, I don't think that I've ever watched a Netflix original movie.
which is interesting because they've made a bunch.
Yeah, you may have and not realized it. I find that with a lot of them. Like, oh, this is a Netflix thing? Yeah, I'm not even sure.
Yeah, so I have a list. We can, maybe after the break, we can come back and I'll rattle off a couple and see if you guys have watched any. But there's apparently a bunch of really good Netflix original movies. No idea. But I do recommend The Dig if somebody wants kind of a historical movie, something to check out that's not Marvel, that's not Star Wars. That's something a little bit different. I do like those movies. I just don't watch them as often.
I'm now realizing why you pivoted so hard off of Bad Batch. That's because we're going to do a tangent about it, probably, for sure. But also, I want to know your thoughts on the Friends reunion.
Oh, yeah. So,
because thanks to our brother-in-law, he gave me his HBO login credentials.
There you go.
Thanks, Chad. Shout out to Chad.
Yeah.
Not giving you his last name, HBO.
Yeah, take that.
But yeah, is it good? Is it everything that everybody is?
Is he also a twin?
Different mom.
Friends Reunion is on HBO Max.
And Dad.
It's owned by Warner Media.
Brother-in-law, totally different. Okay.
Sorry.
It's good.
I don't know how families work.
Yeah.
Warner Media.
Sorry. Yes, HBO Max. HBO Max made the Friends Reunion because they own Warner Media. Man, that was a tangent in and of itself. Anyways, there was some articles and interviews ahead of the Friends Reunion where Matthew Perry or Chandler, if you've seen the show, didn't look or sound very healthy, to put it mildly.
He looked bad, yeah.
He looked rough. And honestly, my concern with watching the reunion, I wanted to watch it, but my concern was if he's really in a bad spot, he obviously had dealt with drugs and alcohol and stuff during the show. But if he's in a really bad spot now, this might make it more, it might make it harder to watch than it would be enjoyable to watch.
Yeah.
Because him and Ross were always my favorite characters in the show. And so his PR person ended up saying it was something like he had dental work done or something, but he's fine. And I don't know. The reunion itself, though, the best way to describe it, it's very nice. I think a lot of people liked it more than I did. It's not scripted. It's not an episode or a movie. It's a mixture of them talking about the show and other people talking about the show and then being interviewed and them reading some lines from a couple old scripts. And so it's kind of chopped up so that it's not like one singular hour and a half long interview. Yeah. But I would say if you were a huge fan of the show, a huge fan of the show as well, go back and watch it. I felt comfortable, with the whole Matthew Perry thing after I actually watched it. He seemed okay.
Oh, good.
And, how concerned can you be about a celebrity you've never met? I guess that concerned, whether you would watch it or not, is about it. But I thought it was nice. I don't know what else we expected when they said it wasn't scripted. Like, we knew it wasn't going to be a movie. We knew it wasn't going to be scripted. It was basically an interview. I thought it was well put together. There probably could have been a few guests that could have made an appearance from over the years that weren't on it. They added a few celebrity fans of the show that had nothing to do with Friends, but they let them be on it. And so it could have been 3 hours long instead of an hour and 45 minutes. I don't know why they artificially stopped a reunion almost 20 years later and stopped it at an hour and 45 minutes. I mean, they probably had days worth of footage and used that much. So, could have been a little longer, but I thought it was good. It's worth watching for any fan of the show. And I'll say that.
I remember when talk of that first started circulating, and there were a lot of 30-something-year-old women that were thrilled, and not to just pigeonhole it to that group of people, but
Dillon
and me. Yeah,
I'm excited about it.
But a bunch of 30-year-old women and me.
Did they talk at all about, like, there's been a ton of pressure for them to do something scripted as like a comeback? Did they talk about that at all? And then this got delayed because of COVID, right?
Yeah, it should have been a year ago. COVID pushed it back. The one thing they don't really touch on that, to answer your question. The only thing that they say is since the finale of the show, the six of them have only been in the same room one other time.
Wow.
Before this special. Now they all seem to talk to each other regularly.
Yeah, I was going to say, is there beef? Is anybody mad at anybody?
They don't. There's and in fact, somebody asked the question. I won't spoil it. Somebody asked the question about, was there ever any kind of legitimate love connection, between anybody in the show? And they do. Two of the characters do talk about it, and it's really sweet. Actually, it was kind of endearing to watch them kind of talk through it. And so I'll leave that for anyone who wants to check it out. But so it's just kind of bizarre, and there doesn't seem to be animosity. Nobody seemed to have a big head about the whole thing, and maybe that's because all of them have had enough time since the end of the show to distance themselves and then kind of reappreciate it again. Is my guess. And so they all just genuinely seemed excited to be there and to be doing this. Probably the last time they'll ever do something like this.
That's cool.
So that's why I say if you've watched the show enough, it's worth the hour and 45 minutes.
And if you're into either of those shows, Bad Batch or Friends, good news, there's a Lego set for each coming out. So that's exciting.
That's true. They did the Central Perk set, a year ago?
Yeah.
Year and a half ago. And now they've got the Friends apartments connected by a hallway. So for the huge Friends nerds out there like me.
Wonderful.
It's already at my house, ready to build.
I'm sure.
Yay. Well, I'm excited to get to the second half of this episode, but we're going to hear a quick word from one of our friends in the Odd Pods Media Network.
I'm Midnight Agent Raw.
And I'm Okami.
We are the Super Media Bros podcast.
And each week we give a comedic take on all forms of entertainment such as
Movies,
music,
video games,
television,
and much more. So put your shades on and listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Shades on.
we're off.
And we're back. You just heard from Midnight Agent Raw and Okame, hosts of the Super Media Bros podcast. We actually are going to chat with them next week, and we're super excited about it. So if you have listened to us for a while, you've heard us do pod mashup episodes. That's where we interview one of the other podcasts in the Odd Pods Media Network, and we're going to sit down with them. They have graciously agreed to give us some time, and we would love to hear more about them and what they do. So tune in for episode 105, where we're going to interview the Super Media Bros.
Yeah, especially if you want like some new cult films to watch, if you're into that kind of thing. I mean, that was some of what we were most excited about. So if that's not your thing, fine. But that's a lot of what we talk about, them deep diving cult films and
weird corners of the internet.
Weird corners of the internet. And so if you're into that kind of thing, especially, and speaking of weird corners of the internet, we were just featured on the Let's Start a Cult podcast. The host over there, Josh.
We're all really excited about it.
We're very excited.
If you can just give us 15 minutes of your time.
Subscribe and follow.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, just kidding.
I thought we were going to do the other thing that we talked about.
What was the other thing? Did I miss a segue?
Well, we're not supposed to tell them yet.
What are we not telling them? No, I can't.
Nothing.
I can't.
Don't worry about
it. I can't promo the other show.
He's messing with you. Keep talking about
great.
it.
Oh, perfect. Oh, that's funny.
So we talked with Josh.
We talked with Josh, the host of the Let's Start a Cult podcast. And I thought I missed an actual cue.
He was pretending like we were starting.
I should have known better because I never miss a cue. Anyways, Josh was the host of a Let's Start a Cult podcast. Was great.
Speaking of Q.
Speaking of Q. Speaking of Q, I'll be anonymous. But when I say it was a great podcast.
And on no Q. Sorry.
Is that all you have?
That was dumb.
So the actual premise of the show isn't actually starting a cult. But Josh does. It's here's how I prefaced it to him. It's sort of like the History Channel and A&E meets Mel Brooks. So it's sort of like a complete irreverent approach to very serious subjects, actually to kind of make light of them a little bit, make them a little more digestible. And so he had us on the show, surprised us with a topic, and we got to sort of take a Mel Brooks approach to that for the episode. So you can find the Let's Start a Cult podcast everywhere. Look for the one where one of the newest episodes where they've tagged us. And it was a lot of fun. I don't remember the episode number.
And that just dropped yesterday.
It just dropped yesterday, which would be Memorial Day. No, Tuesday, June
which
1st.
Is yesterday.
Yeah, I can't remember. I thought you were saying the actual one. Jeez.
Are we on record time?
Wow.
Or
Yeah.
drop time?
This was a really long break. I don't know what happened.
Kendall, do you have bird updates? For the love of God.
kind of have bird updates. So we're looking into fostering this bird, right?
Yeah.
And we took a video of our whole house.
Yeah.
And we interviewed everybody who lives in the house.
Yeah.
Sent off this video. And
Yeah.
2 weeks went by and we had not heard boo from anybody, which it's a private outfit. It's a couple running things out of the house. They've got a bunch of birds over there and they kind of work on their own time.
Right.
So I can understand that. But in any case, Amy sent them a message. I was like, hey, we're still interested in that bird. Looking forward to hearing back from you. And then, I think a couple days after that, they were like, good news, your whatever application was approved, and now we just need to set up a meet and greet time. And so that was a couple weeks ago.
And still, bird is not the word. You haven't heard?
Haven't heard. No bird is the word.
Okay. Well, keep us abreast. Kind of a bird pun.
It's close enough.
Chicken.
It's close enough. I'll give it a one of these.
So
Really driving that one into the ground, aren't we? The artificial laughter. I have to say, after all the talking about TV shows and movies, enough of you have sent social workers to my house to check on me. Thank you.
Welcome.
I do get sunshine. In fact, we go out for drives a lot. That's just a thing we like doing.
It's kind of outside, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of outside. Well, it turns out cars have windows you can put down and you can get some fresh air that way.
Good point.
It's another way to get fresh air. Anyways, I took a slightly more unique drive yesterday in a fully restored 47 Dodge pickup truck.
Nice.
And it was delightful. Little jarring. They don't legally have to have seat belts,
Yeah.
but it was delightful. And the main thing, I don't know if it's true for you guys, I tend to be the one that always drives everywhere. So it's a little harder to actually sightsee as you're out driving around.
Sure.
But it was really nice to just have a ride along in this kind of restored classic car. We're driving around town, a couple different towns out in the country. And I had this sort of moment as we were driving. I got a text. And I looked down at my Apple Watch as I'm kind of looking at the front of this truck where you can actually pop the front windows open. That's your air conditioner. Nice. Like there's a slight gap so it blows up through, the front windshield of the truck. So I'm kind of looking at that. And then I tap on my watch and I'm reading a text message and I had this really sort of, I don't want to call it an out of body moment, but I'm reading a text message on my watch in a 47 Dodge. And it was just one of the more bizarre tech moments that you realize how far we've come in a short amount of time kind of thing.
Right.
And I think every now and then I have that when I cue up music on my speaker with my phone and then I hit play everywhere and my whole house lights up with music. And you sort of have that moment and go, this is pretty cool. But it was that sort of the balance of how much of the world has this truck seen. And I'm checking text messages on my watch and we're just out for a drive and I don't have seatbelts and could die horribly if we get in a car accident. It was a very thrilling experience. So I do get sunshine and fresh air for anyone that's worried. You don't have to keep sending people to check on me. And I had a lovely experience in that restored car. Kory gets all the glory of talking about vehicles right now with your new motorcycle. So I felt like I needed some kind of vehicle story.
Yeah, he gets sun, you guys.
Yeah.
Just his left arm when he puts it out.
Mm-hmm. In this case, the right. I was the
while he's
passenger.
driving. Okay,
there you go.
It's just to balance it out.
Spread it around.
So that's your father-in-law, right? Did he
Yes.
did he have it in any parades or anything on Memorial Day or any car shows? There's a bunch of those going around.
Not this year. He did a car show, his first and only car show he's done so far, and he actually got a trophy.
It's a good time to quit.
Yeah, batting 1,000. Let's call it quits. I think he'd love to do some shows and get out. He loves driving up to Amish country. You know those people who they just love where they grow up and they're very proud of it. And he's kind of that person. He's very proud to have grown up in Ohio and loves the area. And so I think he would love to do more car shows, but nothing this year. I think COVID threw a wrench in that one for a little bit, but he absolutely will. And it's a beautiful truck. It's a bright red. He has the nice wood sort of gates on the side. And the nicer story to it is his father had started a moving company, and that was the exact same make and model of truck. Wow. He started his father started a moving company with when he was young. And so that's why he spent his life working towards getting this car restored. But it was just such a nice day. And I'm sure he'll do some car shows. Maybe even next year do the one at the Harley dealership.
Yeah, hot
right?
rods and handlebars.
Hot rods and handlebars. I'll have to tell him about that one because I'm sure he'd love looking at some motorcycles too.
It's funny when you see those like restored vehicles and you really do like flash back to a family member that had that car. We were trying to tell the kids the other day how like the whole front seat was a bench and nobody wore seatbelts.
Yeah.
And you could like slide all around or grab the hand of your loved one while you drove. Like in the minivan, there's no good center console to put your... And Sherry and I are always, it's cute. Oh, so cute. Trying to hold hands. And it's not, she's like, I miss big bench seats where you could just snuggle up and hold hands. You can't do that as much in a minivan.
I think Bill Burr has a joke off of that, right? About the first seat belts, like only being for the driver and then getting in a car wreck and be like, oh my God, my whole family's dead. Why would you only give me a seat belt? I think there's a bit about that, but
That's funny.
It was cool. Yeah. And it's weird to hear somebody say, legally they don't have to have seat belts when they're this old. And it feels like maybe you still want to.
Yeah.
So,
That doesn't make them a bad idea.
yeah, I think they've been proven pretty effective. So maybe just use one. But
I've been thinking about that as I've been writing, and I'm like, there's nothing protecting me here other than the fact that my body would fly away from the situation. But it's just funny that like in a metal cage, you have to put a belt around you. But on a two-wheeled motorcycle, it's just like, good luck with all that.
and in Ohio, you don't even legally have to wear a helmet, do you?
I don't think so.
Well, in your first year after getting your endorsement, you do. And then after your first year, you don't have to wear a helmet anymore. Fun fact, I was trying to convince my kids to ride with me on the motorcycle because I had a two-person seat. I have since swapped it for a solo seat, which tells you how this first thing happened went down. There's no minimum age to have a passenger on your motorcycle. That's crazy to me.
Well, I mean,
And no seatbelt.
You could put a baby as long as the seat is secured, in a car seat on the back of a motorcycle.
interesting.
There's no minimum. Is that what I mean? Yeah, there's no minimum. Like they have to be at least 16 or something. Nothing.
Yeah.
Crazy.
You'd think at least old enough to be able to use their arms to hold on would be the minimum.
Yeah.
Like, well, it turns out that's around 8. So we're going to say 8.
Yeah,
That's wild.
Well,
The kids don't like riding with me.
Oh.
They're like, when you turn, because I had to explain to them, fun fact, if you're a passenger on a motorcycle, don't lean the opposite way of the rider. You want to lean the direction they're leaning because that messes up the center of gravity. Anyway, when the kids, we've said anyway a lot in this episode, by the way, we should go back and clip all those out. Anyways,
we don't edit.
Anyways. So when you turn, you're kind of at like a 45-degree angle, and they're like, I don't like looking down at the street when you turn. I don't like it. So none of them want to ride with me. Hence, solo seat.
At least you're the
One of these
generation
days.
that you are, though, because the same age, but with some grandparents or great grandparents that have been like, yeah, I didn't like looking down from a bomber over Nazi Germany, but I still had to do that, didn't I? But that would have been, I feel like older generations might have had a slightly more crass response to that than you. You probably were like, oh,
It's okay. It's
interesting.
all right. All
Well, I don't want to
right.
make you uncomfortable.
Oh, none of you like it? Got it. Solo seat it is. So,
I can make my bike look a little different. So
yeah. On Memorial Day, I wanted to do a longer ride. Our dad lives an hour away. From me, if you take highways, Sherry's less comfortable with me using highways, so I used back roads, and it's 75 minutes from my house to our dad's house. And I did a long ride. I was excited to try a longer ride down and back, and so 2.5 hours on the bike. That new solo seat isn't as comfortable as the double seat, but it was really fun to like experience. Oh, I'm fixing to ride for like 75 minutes. Enjoyed a little visit, had a little plate of food, and then rode back right as the sun was coming down. It was really nice.
nice.
Fun times.
Question. Do baked beans taste better on Memorial Day, 4th of July, and Labor Day?
Is that like a science thing?
Yeah.
'Cause I think so.
Mm-hmm.
Science alert.
Yeah. Again, I was outside all day.
Is there bacon in them?
Yeah, they're absolutely in our
Or
example.
are you cheap and you're just going to cut up little bits of hot dog?
This isn't just a can of like Bush's baked beans. It's bacon in it.
That's the starting point.
That's the starting point. These are done up.
Done up beans. I'll eat done up beans anytime.
Yeah.
So funny that my kids know that I love baked beans, but it's relatively recent knowledge to them. I guess we don't eat them very often in the house.
Turns out they're not healthy or something.
I don't know what it is. But I'm fat, and it's probably part of the reason why. But my kid he's in kindergarten and getting school lunches now. And every time I would always know when he had baked beans with the school lunch, because whenever I would pick him up from school, I would ask him how his day was. And he sometimes will tell me what he had for lunch. But whenever he had baked beans, my day was okay, but I think you're might going to get a little jealous.
That's adorable.
And that is always followed up with, because I had baked beans for lunch.
That's so cute.
And I was like, yeah, you're right. I am jealous. I want you to start calling me when you have baked beans at the school, and I'm going to show up.
Mm-hmm.
Are you allowed to do lunches with your kids at school?
No.
Okay.
No. Well, I guess I mean, during COVID, certainly not.
Oh, right.
And so this was the kindergarten year.
Under normal circumstances.
Under normal circumstances, I have not experienced normal circumstances yet. So
Touche.
I don't know the answer to that question.
Yeah.
We'll see.
But you text me as soon as you find out it's baked bean day, and I'm going to be there with $2.25 in hand, ready to pay for that school lunch. Is that what school lunches go for? I don't know.
They were free this year.
Oh,
Yeah.
look at
that. Which was why he was getting them. But I'm sorry. Yeah. So Memorial Day, baked beans. I don't know. What do you say, Dillon?
They're better for sure.
Better.
Yeah. I think they're better on an outdoor holiday.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I could open up a family-sized Bush's baked beans, put bacon in it, and eat it all by myself at home on a non-holiday.
Right.
It feels healthier when you're outside. I think the fresh air makes it healthier.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Holidays, food, the season. We were talking before we started recording about these Keystone grills?
Blackstone.
Blackstone. Yeah, these Blackstone griddles. My brother-in-law, the HBO guy, thanks, Chad, and my dad got one, and they're all about it. And you were saying, like, that you had heard about these. These are super popular right now.
Yeah.
And our outdoor grill is hooked up to the natural gas of the house, so we never have to mess with propane.
Beautiful.
And I was wondering if these Blackstones have a natural gas hookup, because that might replace our grill for the patio.
I'm sure they would.
I think they do.
I mean, with you for certain could jerry rig something.
I'm sure I could come up with something.
You might want to set it up pretty close to the pool.
Does natural gas leak through Lego bricks if is a real tight connection that I made out of Lego with that?
No.
If it's two of the little slim Lego stacked on top of each other, which, those ain't never coming apart.
Yeah. But I'm serious. I've been thinking about getting one, and everybody that has one is all about it. They're like, the flavor is there. A lot of people were worried, like, will you still get that nice char, like you do on a regular grill? You do. A lot less cleanup in the kitchen. You can do every meal. You can do breakfast on it.
Yeah.
It's just
even baked beans.
Even
you
baked beans.
You could do baked beans right
on a grill pot. Anyway,
do it to it. We Memorial Day, we had our first driveway fire.
I saw the picture. That was great. Sidewalk chalk.
Sidewalk
driveway
out there,
fire.
everybody. If for newer listeners who weren't around last summer, we do fires in our driveway. We do have a backyard. We have a fire pit even in the backyard, but
controlled fires.
But we're trying to be. I'm trying to make my family be front yard people, so that way we're not running away from the neighbors, but we're actually intentionally trying to be communal. With them, wave to people as they walk by. We did that. We cooked hot dogs over the fire. We did the s'mores and the whole 9 yards. Kids had a blast.
That's awesome.
It was fun. one thing that I noticed that made me a little sad, and we've talked about this before, about the things that we've learned through COVID, and everybody sort of had the same kinds of epiphanies toward the beginning of lockdowns, and that is like family night can't be underestimated. The importance of spending time with your family, and we never knew that until like, you know, gymnastics was canceled and out of our control, and work shut down and everything else. And so like a lot of people were gleaning some good family lessons from that. And then we all had the conversations about like, we need to make sure we retain some of this.
Yep.
When we come back, and we talked about that. And like, I remember last year when we started doing this last summer, it was like heavy traffic on the sidewalk in front of our house. And this time, like we were out there on Memorial Day for several hours and probably only saw like 5 people.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was a little disappointing that like people were letting go of it that early. We're still in the pandemic. We're on our way out. But,
Yeah.
yeah.
Or so we think.
We'll find out.
We did an episode once before called The End of the Quarantine Arc. And, well, that
A little premature.
We were so young and stupid.
Premature. I do think that you're right. And I think that we've maintained putting a premium on family night and making family night sacred. We have this cheesy little fun thing that we do now where on the center of the table is a ring of all these cards called Family Talk, and they're just prompts to ask questions, and we go around. And today's was, who was your favorite teacher and why? You know, just fun little family conversational things. We got I finally found my own copy of the card game Super Fight that I've been talking about, where you draw a hero or a villain, and then you draw all their attributes, and you have to convince the table why your hero or villain would win in a fight. So I finally found a copy of that at Barnes & Noble. We're excited to break that out. Headed on vacation next week, and so that should be really fun.
Did I black out for like 10 or 20 episodes where you talked about that super fight?
I've talked about it before. I think it was after I came back from Colorado, but the funniest moment I had when playing that, you have those quotes that you're like you said about the lady who's like, I happen to have a queen bee here in my pocket. You hear things playing that game that you would never hear anywhere else. And the one that came up when we were playing was, do you need 2 hands to ride a narwhal? Because it was like your hero has a sword for an arm, but also rides a narwhal. And someone's like, you couldn't. And it's just really fun. It's like what you used to do in the cafeteria as kids. Like you're trying to, who would win in a fight. It's really great.
That would be, I can see that. Like even that discussion itself.
Yeah.
I can hear some, well, I mean, with superhero thighs, you don't need any hands to ride
I mean,
a
if you've
narwhal.
got the thighs of Xena Warrior Princess, of course you can, right?
Yeah,
like no problem at all.
Yeah, so it's a great game. And then there's expansion packs that are themed, right? So you could do like probably a Star Wars expansion pack of it and all these other. Anyway, Super Fight is a great game, and we're excited to break that open. But yes, back to my original point. I'm proud that we, at least for our little family unit, hasn't let those learnings die, and that we're just like, it's just really important to not, as the world starts to open up, not dive back into an unnecessary amount of extracurriculars and activities to fill our calendar, that we need to continue to put a premium on family night and family discussion and game night. And so I think you're right. And I hope we keep that going. So
It's beautiful.
yeah. Anyway, does it feel good?
It feels good.
Feel
Feels
good
good.
place to wrap up?
Yeah. I like ending in happy, thoughtful places.
So we challenge you to take the things that you've learned from the last 14 months about yourself, about your significant other, about your family, and don't be in a rush to, convince yourself that you need to dive back into all these expectations that the world or other external factors places upon you. Just live your life,
Live your life.
You do you, boo.
And if you don't have a family, then our message to you is work on your thighs.
Work on your thighs.
and find a narwhal.
I thought you were going to sing I'll Be There For You by the Rembrandts from Friends.
And that's all we can afford.